Jubilee is the new strategist hero added in Marvel Rivals Season 9, and while she can be very influential on the match, you do have to respect certain things about her kit. Now, many of the tutorials you'll find out there were done during the early access period, and that means that their values on Jubilee are flat out wrong. So in this video, we're going to talk about all the things the pro players missed about Jubilee, how to use her to her maximum potential, master her cooldowns and abilities so you can win more games in Marvel Rivals Season 9. Now, Jubilee is a deceptively simple character. She looks very flashy on the surface, but if you're obeying her properties, you'll be doing much the same thing the entire round. And what it really comes down to is this sparkle mark. I want you to pay attention to sparkle mark, because taking Jubilee onto the field and using her primary, pay attention to her attack speed. And this is going to dictate how fast she can actually heal her teammates. It's enough for this, little ping, ping, ping right here. But you see how slow it gets them back up to full bar. When you're in the thick of a battle, Jubilee, her basic healing isn't really going to be enough to keep up your tanks. So the next power we'll mention is the Sparking Sprint, because this gives her a speed boost, jump height, and attack speed increase. And now let's compare the fire rate of the two. And you see I'm able to completely save my character from near death right there. And this power comes up very frequently, actually. You can use this aggressively. One of the benefits I've seen of this power is actually the ability to jump past the tanks and take a 1v1 with the supports in the back. If you feel like you're comfortable enough to diff a strategist 1-to-1, Jubilee has the potential to do that. But there are some characters that will trump her, like a Luna Snow is just a powerhouse with a freeze. I wouldn't recommend taking that fight. And something to mention about this power too is that when it ends, it's going to discharge and knock back the enemy. This can be useful in the middle of a fight, but I think that amount of knockback isn't that much. But though it really is her specialty. I guess if I was to compare her to like an Overwatch hero, it would kind of be like a Lucio. And you're going to see that in her ult in a second. But there's one more cooldown that applies this spark charge. And that's going to be her healing dome. Now this healing dome can be put on your teammates, put on an enemy as well. The way it works is that the center part of it is like a gravity well. So it's going to stick to that enemy. And then you ignite. And then it increases my fire rate once I kill them. So I have to confirm the hit on the guy who has the spark to get the increased attack speed. Let me throw it near my teammate right now just to show you that gravity effect. Very nice. And when I fire into it, it actually increases in size to a maximum amount. And this is with the cooldowns on, by the way, so this is a pretty long time for this to last until you detonate it. It can be pretty game-changing, actually. And if they choose to fight you within it, it actually can influence the way tank versus tank battles go. Now, you can manually recall this thing if you want to, and that will put it on less of a cooldown. You see how it has the circular cooldown above the left trigger right there? Boom, got it back almost instantly. Now, I want to refocus on the explosive part of this, because it actually applies some effects to the enemy you won't be able to see. Notably, blind and vulnerability. So their vision is going to be pretty limited for about 2 seconds, and they're going to be a tiny bit more impacted by damage. And that definitely combines well with her overcharging form. So throw it in, boom. And as we saw, this is her real pop-off. But the troubles I've been having with Jubilee when playing her is the hyper-dense tanks, like a Venom or a Devil Dinosaur, something like that. They're very big and bulky. You can't get over them to take those 1v1s, so you kind of have to address them. But she can't really pour out enough damage to make the difference there. She needs the support for sure. Even in her overdrive form, she can still be trumped. Now, this part is hard to demonstrate, but look down here at the sparkle mark. When it detonates, it grants allies a healing boost and bonus health, and this is only really if they're fighting right next to you. Beyond that, the dazzling detonation, if it hits in range of one of your allies, it's going to give them healing and a speed boost as well. So this kind of informs Jubilee's playstyle. And Jubilee's playstyle really is to hang at a distance, just kind of firing. This allows her to kind of police flyers in a way, though she doesn't do the most damage at range. Like, let me hit this guy that's the furthest right now. And you'll see, for example, it's not the biggest impact ever, and you do have a you know, somewhat small magazine for your fire rate. Really, you're waiting for your tanks to take space, because when your tanks take space, then you're able to fire your orb, and it goes really far, really fast, and then you can keep up with it with your speed boost, overcharge it to maximum as fast as possible, and in that time, you're dumping massive heals into your tanks, and that's really where she excels, when she's able to cooldown dump in that order, get boom, boom, jump in, bang, 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 and then once she's in here, this is where we bring up her vampiric ability, and this actually comes from her Blade team-up. Now, without Blade, it actually deploys a vampiric field, and enemies standing within that field gain leech life. And that's actually going to be hard to tell here, but if I was standing next to this guy, you see this red here, that's why it gives her self-heal as well, because she's standing within her own field. Anyone in there gets a little bit of leech life. With Blade on your team, you'll actually just put a continuous healing effect onto your teammates. And Blade is an exceptionally powerful DPS this season. I've heard some players say he's the necessary evil of the game right now, and in many ways that's true, because his leech life creates, like, stall. He's a character that really stalls the front line. You got tanks trying to go forward, you got him absorbing as much health as damage he's taking, and no one's moving, and it leaves it up to the other DPS and strategists to make a play. And one of the things you're going to notice over the course of the season is because so many team-ups exist, and because heroes get access to their team-ups without, you know, needing the team comp, the fights are going to take longer. Defense takes longer, people are able to push forward longer, stall is more influential, and brawl is actually a thing. And that means heroes that kind of just hang back and dink, they're gonna be the least valuable. It's really about picking your times to cash out on the opponents. Now, unfortunately, we can't actually use her secondary power until Red Hood is in the game, but attack speed is enhanced, and her primary does self-healing and can do critical hits, and that is actually significant. Critical hits, that might be better than increased attack speed if you're accurate, because if you have Hood on your team, this form change essentially never expires. And that means you can just go in all the time. You're not relying on this little power jump speed boost. You have something extra in your pocket. And the final thing to talk about is her ultimate. And it's actually probably the simplest part of her kit, because it's just a radial heal, does a little damage to enemies, and when you adjust it, it can do push out and push back. You see how this guy is getting pushed? Boom. And this can be used to get map kills, but really, this is how Jubilee moves the fight, with the exception of a Devil Dino and a Thing, and that's why I mentioned him earlier. I would say her biggest problems are Venom and Devil Dino because of their health, but then Devil Dino and the Thing because she can't move them with her ultimate. But if those three tanks are not on the other side, Jubilee is an actual powerhouse. In those situations, she might be one of the best healers in the game. But I also want you to notice she has a 4-star difficulty, and the reason for this is because she can die incredibly easily. She has a lot of self-sustain, but it isn't enough to keep her alive in the thick of things. You really want to be maintaining your distance. You don't want to get too close until you know your tanks are bridging that distance. And you want to be using some cover too, like cover, awkward lines of sight, things of that nature. The less seen you are, the better. And I mean, it's decently easy when you have that enhanced jump to take another floor at least. This is something I think a lot of healers would benefit from, Gambits, things like that. You know, if you're a Jubilee, you're not chained to the floor like a Mantis or a Luna Snow, and I think that's one of her big advantages, actually. Now, I want to briefly talk about who she pairs up with, because this actually informs her team comps quite a bit. Gambit is her healing synergy right here, and it gives quite a lot to Gambit. This turns Gambit back up to his old S-tier power level. So in its default form, this power allows you to reflect projectiles and create a little healing field. It's not that long, but the real sauce is when you have Jubilee on the team, because now your staff slams actually provide healing over time and do a little spark, and that spark actually does damage over time to the enemies as well. And this cooldown right here, the blocking staff, this makes him like kind of like a Reed Richards, I would say. This gives him a Reed Richard-like quality to stand in the front of the line for about 2 to 3 seconds. And this falls with what NetEase was talking about in the devlog. They wanted the heroes to kind of cross into more roles. They didn't want players to be so dependent on having the correct picks on their team to win. We'll see how the meta shakes out. Obviously, there's going to be a meta, and there's going to be better picks and worse picks. But right now, I think every hero has a playable form of some sort. Now, the second hero that has a team up with Jubilee is Scarlet Witch, and it gives a little extra bonus to her stun field. You can detonate it for an extra burst of damage, and honestly, Scarlet Witch has kind of become a low elo terror. Her auto-aiming to take care of flyers, her large stun field, her ability to damage dump, you know, just these cooldowns. It's not a lot, but when you're facing off against low-skill players with a character like this with so many tools, I don't know. Now, the team-up part with Jubilee is actually exceptional because it's going to give Scarlet Witch a little bit of self-heal because she doesn't have the movement overshield, but when she enters her shadow form, boom. It wasn't quite up to full health. That was about 125, or actually maybe only 75, huh? Let me take a little more damage. 151, do it again. So almost exactly 75 damage. Technically 76. That's weird, right? The third and final hero with a team up on Jubilee is Human Torch, and this one is actually quite beneficial to his fighting style. So he'll just put out fireworks in the immediate vicinity of himself. He doesn't even have to aim them to get damage. It just detects that they're there, and that's a decent amount of chip damage when you consider how much Human Torch can do when he's close quarters. So really, it just adds to Human Torch's dive potential. And if you know Human Torch, you know his whole style. Lay the fire, dive down, and then hit shotgun, right? Well, let's do that same combo with the fireworks added. Fire, dive, firework, come close. And the whole time, this guy, maybe he's trying to chase us. He'll be taking damage as well. I've only played a couple of games with Human Torch. But every time I've played with Human Torch, I've been able to battle the Iron Mans rather, and the Storms and the Ultrons much easier with this power. I think this power makes Human Torch the best flyer in the game simply because he can police all the other flyers in the game. Besides Angela, of course. Now we upgrade it by putting Jubilee in the game. And really the way it works is it's entirely on Jubilee. We have to read the text here. When teaming up with Jubilee, successfully landing a firework spark on enemy grants Human Torch bonus health. But Human Torch cannot land firework marks, and neither can Scarlet Witch with her powers. So this is just Jubilee's way to give healing to Human Torch without ever having to look at him. And that's kind of part of that shield regen thing as well, is it's like trying to make the strategist job simpler so they don't have to look for all these dive heroes and flying heroes that are constantly zipping around the map, just causing them to look away from the brawl, from the pit, which is where all the action is actually going on. Like, the main number battle has become so much more important in Marvel Rivals because of these powers, because of recharging shields, because of all the changing values. Like, teamwork and power combinations, stacking your synergies, that's really the name of the game now in Marvel Rivals.